What's old is new again, a saying as old as time. I mean, we humans are big fans of things feeling new. Some might even say downright obsessed. Old Blender can make this feel new, no problem, by buying a new one. And I'm getting up there in age myself. Garbage Trick didn't seem to work for that until diddly hi-ho scored myself a half-eaten nanner. And you're looking at a new man. What's interesting about older video games, though, is that many retro gamers would tell you that they like the fact they feel old. At least, in a sense. On one hand, people like the distinct nature of older video games and the way that they differ from newer video games, at least in terms of bigger AAA games, with older games often having completely different approaches to game design. But on the other hand, many times older games can feel new if they're older games we never played before or haven't played in a really long time. Mean Bean Machine would probably feel new to Timmy if he ever got it back to play, which my prediction is he won't. But if you've never played an older game before, then it's new to you. So kids, stop calling all these old games old. They'd be new to you. You know, like I said, in at least one sense of the word. And for both kids and adults, that's my first tip for making old games feel new. Play the old games you haven't played before. Retro gaming isn't only about the exact games from your childhood, a lot of new and exciting experiences to be had. And you probably don't even have to buy anything, just pick from your backlog, you dirty dog. Maybe finally play Okami? You may have to use a bit of reasoning to feel like you're playing something new, but trust me, you can get there. I believe in you. But you know who doesn't? Nintendo! At least for a while they didn't, going through a phase where they would call things new to make it clear to us. What a time to be alive. Those days were sweet. Maybe they'll come back, and right there on my short list of things I'm hoping for. In any case, we human beings clearly have a fixation with things being new, whether consciously or subconsciously. One example that really sticks out to me is the mini consoles. Remember when these were new? The hype, excitement, the rage of trying to hunt one down. Now that this once new way to play old games has aged a bit, it's old news to most people, gathering dust, with a big shout out to those who actually do still play theirs. Really though, I can't emphasize enough the irony of a collection of old games being the hot new thing, only to eventually have that fire fade, when all the while there's been a large, dedicated fan base of retro gamers who have enjoyed these older games all along and continue to. So right there we have proof that some people are more susceptible to things feeling new. And while sure, some people who jumped on board with the mini consoles may have long since abandoned their enthusiasm for playing these older games, there's also some people who have remained big fans of retro and can thank these devices for it. And I would imagine the same could apply moving forward to potential new retro gaming recruits. Kids, we've got save states for you. We've got a good selection of games. Menu music that can hijack an entire Saturday afternoon. We've got HDMI connectivity that's easy to hook up to any TV in the house, so give them a shot. And naturally, plenty of adults love these consoles too. As much as people like myself and some of you watching love to play around with old CRT TVs, converter boxes, switch boxes, cable jungles, and the like, to get these games running on original hardware, some consider that to be a major pain in the butt. Inconveniences that they associate with the old way of hooking up video games. They'd prefer a way that feels new, and for some, the mini consoles are just that. To a lesser degree, this sort of continued with older games being released on something like the Switch, with there always being articles talking about which games have been added, which, yeah, might seem kind of weird for people to be getting excited about the release of games you've owned for years, maybe decades, but hey, it's important to those who haven't. We can be excited for other people. I mean, how can I expect people to be excited for my love of nanners if I don't get excited for people and their love of, I don't know, what is it that you like to eat? And imagine me cheering you on the next time you eat it. Either way, if you're not a fan of more modern solutions for playing older video games, to make the experience feel new again, you could also just get a new, older TV. Nothing like a brand new old CRT TV added to the setup to fire up a retro gamer. Careful not to get too carried away though. Too late. Quick little story for you. I found a CRT TV for free on Craigslist that to pick up, I drove to some random lady's house, but to me, I might as well have been driving to Disneyland. Absolutely giddy with anticipation because I would now have an extra TV to do Tate mode for arcade games that use a vertical orientation. Yes, it's a thing people do that actually makes sense when you look into it. Look it up. There are weird things like this you can do to make gaming more exciting. And, more normal things too, like getting a new cable to hook up your consoles with different video quality. You can watch my video all about that. Get an RGB mod done to one of your consoles, or just get a cable that'll work on your console without any modifications required. Heck, you could even go back to RF or composite for some classic dithering dandiness. Suddenly, you're experiencing all your games with what feels like a new set of eyes. And actually, I suppose if you really wanted to go the distance, you could get laser eye surgery done, if that's something you were already due for. Kinda pricey though. Controllers are another big one. Look for weird controllers, or hey, maybe even not so weird controller variations. Nothing weird about this nanner jacket for my N64 controller. People not knowing I loved nanners while I played N64 and keeping my controller cozy was a real issue before, but look at me now, problem solved. But sometimes just buying a new color variation can be invigorating. Or, of course, controllers you maybe didn't even know about, like this Super Game Boy controller I found once upon a time. But for all the suggestions I've given in this video, by far, my number one suggestion is something that nobody seems to ever talk about, and I have no idea why. If video presentation is half the experience of these older games, then sound is the other half, or at least some substantial percentage. For the love of high-grade baloney, think about getting an upgraded pair of speakers for your retro gaming. You don't even have to go for anything that expensive, especially if you had just been using your TV's default built-in speakers before. I mean it on the don't spend a lot of money stuff too. Heck, you might even be able to steal them from your own attic or a different part of the house. A lot of people have speakers that are just lying around unused. Stealing from yourself can be a lot of fun too. Check out this single sock I swiped. The doofus will never know what happened. Wait a minute. So that's where they go. But let me tell you, I got a basic pair of speakers to upgrade my CRT with, popped in Outrun, and had an experience so profound, it felt like some sort of spiritual awakening. I can't recommend it enough. Upgrade your sound. There's so much amazing music in retro games. Any retro gamer could talk all day about their favorite tunes. To not have a decent sound setup makes little sense to me. Do yourself a favor, I'm just trying to help. So yeah, that's the big one. But before I wrap up, I do have one more little bonus piece of advice that might seem strange, but I think actually makes a lot of sense. Try to get better at your games. Don't get me wrong. If you're having fun at your current skill level, then more power to you. But if you can get better at certain games or simply spend more time with them, you'll get farther into the game, maybe see some levels you've never seen before, and the experience will change. I find my view of a game often feels very different after I beat it. Not necessarily in terms of whether I like it or not, but in terms of how much and why I like the game. Just trust me, you'll probably know what I mean the next time you beat a game you never had before. But there we have it, my advice. I'd be curious to hear what you think of my advice, as well as to hear any additional advice that some of you may have. I'm anticipating a lot of upscaler talk from all you upscaling maestros. So with that, leave your thoughts down below, and I will see ya in the next video.
He's the retro bird, yeah, and he's talking about video games. He's the retro bird, oh yes, and he hopes that you liked what he had to say.